Welcome to another video, guys. I just thought to go through trials and tribulations of a controversial subject, the EV market. Seeing obviously both sides of the story. You've got people who do want one, people that don't want one, people that are enticed into one and realise it's not what they think or not what they've actually been sold. So it all depends on that person's perception of what they want. Now, I'm a big believer in freedom of choice for that person to, or whoever wants to buy a car, to have freedom of choice of what they want and not be really dictated to about what they should be driving. A car is a very personal thing. It's very each to their own. It's a bit like buying a house. As soon as you get into your car, if you're looking to buy one, you know whether you can sit in a traffic jam for 3 hours or not in it or not. And it's a very extension of your personality as a person. So, some people do not want to buy an EV, solely because they've been so used to driving a petrol or diesel car, and they love to change gear, and they love to go down up and down the gearbox and hear the sound of the engine. I am guilty of that as well, but I like to see the other side of it as well, where all EVs are automatic. They've got a go and stop pedal basically, and very easy to drive, very easy to maneuver and things like that in most cases. But they can be a bit boring to drive. Yes, they may be quick off the mark, but that kind of wears off after the novelties wore off. So you do tend to get a bit bored after a little while. You've also got obviously charging problems. If you go to a charger, the charger is there, it's not working, somebody's stolen the cable off the charger and things like that. That's also a worry as well, because if you do go more than half your distance away from your house, you are going to be using a public charger, which can be quite expensive depending on which provider that you use. But on the flip scale of that, it can also be a little bit cheaper than obviously driving a petrol, but you have that range anxiety of I need to get it charged up. In some cases you could get to a charger and it may not be charging at the same rate as you would like it to, or it's advertised as, so you could be there a lot longer than you have to be. Especially if you're only charging at 80%, fair enough. But people say, oh yeah, go grab a cup of tea and come back. That's fine. But for some reason, if that charge is charging slower and you're there for an hour and a half or an hour, then then puts that time on your journey. And if you're doing a long journey, it's not good, obviously. Even with short journeys, if you're charging for 40 minutes to an hour, it is quite a long time to charge. Now, looking at certain EVs in the market, I did drive a Tesla Model 3 at Manchester pre-owned centre. Absolutely lovely bunch of people, great sales experience. Unfortunately, being out of job at the moment, I can't afford to change my car at the moment, but I will pop a photograph of the car in a second. So after reviewing the car and taking a look at it, and I'm taking it out for a test drive, they did say to us, there's a car for an hour, drive it round Trafford, Manchester, which we did. The car was surprisingly incredibly comfortable, incredibly quiet, just like driving an automatic. Granted, in some cases can be a little bit boring, but there is a novelty factor of the instant torque and the acceleration, which is fantastic. But for me, I'm getting older. I've got no cartilage left in my left knee at the moment. The right one's not far behind, and unfortunately, when I've got a size 14.5, 14 feet, most cars I get into, I kind of hit the bottom of the dashboard with the top of my foot, and then end up resting my left leg on the center console. In most cases, the van RT4 is pretty okay. I don't really have to do that. I still hit the bottom of the dashboard on the van, but I don't have to rest my leg on the center console, which is quite nice. The Golf, I'm unfortunately have to drive it that way, just being obviously the way I am, can get a bit annoying. My T-Cross, unfortunately, I'm constantly hitting my feet on the bottom of the dashboard. I'm resting my left knee on the center console because I can't take it in most cases all the way off the clutch. And get it out of the way in some cases. So driving a Tesla for me was a good experience in regards to that, because my left leg, there's enough room for my left leg, and my right leg was doing all the work, and my feet didn't hit the bottom of the dashboard at all. I appreciate the technology that goes into the car. I appreciate obviously all the systems it's got, everything that is what makes it a Tesla. And in regards to reliability, I know in regards, it's an EV with lithium and lithium ion. I have a lot of radio control cars, which I will introduce later on, probably in the week or so. Next video, couple of videos, I probably will do that. So I'm used to charging small lithium-ion batteries. I know they can get hot while charging. I know obviously there is fire risk and things like that. That is possible. After looking at most of the cars, most of them, the only ones that we do what they say they're going to do on the tin, as it were, will be the Polestar and the Tesla. Most of the Chinese stuff, I do find that it doesn't come nowhere close to what it says. Numerous amount of problems with the cars themselves. Major Volkswagen fan have been since I started driving, or before I started driving. We've got full Volkswagens at the moment. Now I know I can get a 6 or 8 month old ID3 for what I would pay for a 4-year-old Tesla Model 3. Now, the only problem obviously with the Volkswagens is they do share the same platform as Ford. I think the new vans share the same platform as the Transit, and vice versa. The ID3 and the ID4 seem to have been reports of a lot of software problems in regards to mileage, in regards to absolutely everything. So in regards to that, yes, they are cheap, but they're now cheap for a reason, really, because they can't really sell them because they have got that many software problems. The ID bus, it's a wonderful looking thing. The actual mileage range on it is terrible, unfortunately. If they'd put a diesel engine in it or a petrol engine, they would have sold them hand over fist. But because of the ID platform, I would probably consider weak at the moment. They probably will get it sorted out eventually, but they are considered quite weak at the moment, and there is plenty more out there for the same kind of money, or in most cases cheaper. As I said, the Polestar and the Model 3. I was quite impressed, obviously, with the Model 3, with the sensors, things that you got the front, as it were, trunk, and the rear boot space. Room in the back wasn't bad. If you are just taking the 2 extra people with you, loads of room. Obviously, first drive really was a bit unnerving. Not driven anything like that before, and they made me pull it out of the warehouse through a small door. Managed to get through without any problems. The ride was generally okay. I know obviously their Model 3s do suffer from squeaky ball joints occasionally, and they do have a recall, I believe, on the wiring harness that goes into the charging plug as well. So obviously I know they're not perfect, but for value for money, really for what they do sell on the tin, they're pretty good. I would consider having one as a daily driver, and keep my Golf, the camper van and everything else for leisure. Now, surprisingly, I wouldn't be having one thinking I was saving the planet, because you're not. At the end of the day, there's so much that goes in, fossil fuels that goes into making them, batteries, etc. And in some cases, the electricity that you do supply to the vehicle, in some cases, isn't that green either. If it comes to a nuclear power station, they keep saying, "Oh yeah, it's green, it's fantastic," but it isn't, because you're still using nuclear fuel, and that fuel then gets spent, and then they have to go and dispose of it, bury it, or whatever. So it's really not a clean source of energy at the moment. Obviously, the biomass is now overtaking coal. The biomass is about the same, or a little bit worse than coal anyway, so there's really not much point in getting rid of the coal-fired power stations and things like that. So it just seems a bit odd. But back to obviously EVs. I probably wouldn't have one, as I said, because I thought it'd be saving the environment, because you're just not doing that at all. I'd pretty specifically have one for the space, the room, the quiet, how quiet it is, how comfortable it is for me to drive personally, and the technology that's in the car. I wouldn't say what we say, "Oh, I'm a fanboy." I'm just looking at a day-to-day basis for me myself, what will benefit me every day while driving something to and from work, shopping, etc. So it depends on, as I said before previously, it all really depends on how you want to drive, how you drive, and what you like as a car. My partner probably wouldn't have an EV. She's quite happy, obviously, with the petrol. Either Polo or Honda Jazz, something like that, or Honda Jazz Hybrid, something like that. She's quite happy with that. Obviously, I'm quite happy to change. Obviously, the initial cost of having the charger at home can be expensive depending on what you pick. Me personally, if I'm on a Tesla car, I probably want a Tesla charger, but again, it's a prohibitive cost of having that installed on the house as well. We all know that the government will eventually start charging this per mile, obviously because they can't, for some reason, they can't tax the electricity that goes in the vehicle, so they want to obviously start charging you per mile for that, which is not a bad idea, because at the end of the day, if you are using the road and you're paying tax on petrol, then you should be paying tax on electricity that goes into the car. What I don't understand is anybody that has got a plug-in hybrid has to pay both, because that's not really fair, because it's not a full electric or full petrol. So personally, they should just be using the petrol, paying the tax on the petrol itself. So that's really how I think about that at the moment, in regards to how that's going to work. I'm hoping eventually it'll all work itself out in the end. The problem you've got is, especially with all this net zero, with pushing EVs and things like that, if you think how long it's taken to get the petrol car to this point, well over 100 years, the government now here are trying to push a technological evolution into 5 years or less, which is nearly impossible to do, because if we start to ban sales of new petrol and diesel cars, then people will stop buying new cars, and then we'll keep the old cars a lot longer, which means the price of used petrol and diesel will go through the roof. Manufacturing will decline because people aren't buying the EVs as much, etc. Now, as we've learned in the past, in order for things to evolve, technology needs to move forward. So, give you a bit of explanation here. So you've got in the 70s, you had Betamax and you had VHS. Eventually, people went with VHS, and that went forward. Now, as it came through the 80s, you came into video CDs, which are very, very short-lived. Medium for video, and then Laserdisc, etc. All that then morphed into DVD. People then slowly migrated over to DVDs and watched everything they wanted on DVDs, and it slowly happened. You then come to the point where end of the DVD, if you want to put it there, where you've got two formats. One was HD DVD and one was Blu-ray. Again, the people chose what they wanted, and they moved into Blu-ray as opposed to HD DVD, and now we're moving away from Blu-ray onto streaming services. So it takes time for technology to become available to everybody. It takes time for people to decide what they want to do. Trying to force people is not a good idea, because people will just dig their heels in and not move. If you want to have EVs on the roads, more of them, then yes, more incentives is good, but you've also got to make it people have that choice, and eventually people will choose that choice eventually. It just takes time. You can't force people into doing stuff they really don't want to do. So you've got to think about that as well. I mean, trying to force people into a technological evolution, especially with solar panels and things like that as well. Yes, we're all aware of the environment and how the environment works and why we need to save the environment in regards to all this, but the problem you've then got is you're trying to force people into doing something instead of them naturally making the correct choice. You know, at the moment, cheaper electricity would go miles in helping people move over to hybrids, plug-in hybrids, EVs, etc. But for some reason, because they're trying to hang on this net zero and trying to push that to the point where it's costing everybody a fortune, the electricity is not cheap. You know, if they produced the electricity, started drilling more in the North Sea for gas, etc., you know, building more power stations, things like that, the electricity price would eventually come down, enabling people to make that choice because it would be cheaper. At the moment, I've worked out my sums. We're not fantastic, but close as I can get. I'm going to be, if I bought a Tesla Model 3 with everything all in, I'm going to be paying about the same money as I'm paying now, including the petrol, the fuel for my car, and with the EV, charging the EV up at home, etc. I'll be paying out exactly the same amount of money. So there's no benefit for me to move apart from it being more comfortable, like technology, and there's a lot more room in it. So it's how you feel in yourself and what you want to do. As I said, I'm a big trust in choice, but if the government keeps pushing and pushing and pushing, something will break. Unfortunately, it's probably not going to end well for anybody if they're trying to push it all in one go. Unfortunately, when you're trying to push a technological evolution in a matter of years instead of tens of years, then people are going to resist, and it's going to become a nightmare. You know, you've got people on both sides of the fence, whether that be for or against, or people undecided. You've got dealers that are being told you have to push these, you have to push them, and sell so many per year, or else you're going to get fined. That's not going to help because people are not buying them as quickly as they'd hoped, because people need time to make that decision, to make, you know, if they want to do that or not. You know, dealers at the moment in some cases are pre-registering vehicles just to make it look like they've sold them when they haven't, because they are aware that they can't sell quite a lot of them. You know, the market's been flooded by, you know, cheaper Chinese EVs, the Jayco, Amonda and things like that, which is okay, but the lack of spares and things like that are horrendous. If we, you know, we see Copart have a couple Jaycos in that have had dented when they can't get the parts, and the insurance have just ended up writing them off, and they end up becoming then just like a fridge, freezer, or whatever, where it's just a throwaway item, and then we're left with thousands of these things that we can't get rid of, we can't do anything with, and we have to scrap and recycle them and recycle the batteries and everything else. So it's not a really good way of doing it. Yes, they're cheap, but again, they are cheap for a reason. So you've got to think about that as well. I had an MG ZS, worked out £229 a month. It was 2022 plate. It was cheap, and it was not a bad car for what it was. 1.5, did its job. You know, I had some fun in it, and then I found out I'd lost £9,500 in 18 months, which is more or less half the value of the car in 18 months. At that point, I had to trade the car in because I didn't want to lose any more money on the vehicle. Now, if you go and buy an MG ZS used, 6 or 8, 10 months old, they're fantastic value for money, got loads of stuff in them, and they do what they say. You know, they're nice and cheap. But from a new point of view, they lose that much, there's no point. I know every vehicle loses money, but that's kind of ridiculous. But that's my take on, obviously, EVs and things like that and net zero. So I thought I'd have a little bit in the garage, and it's been a bit of a long video with me waffling on, so I do apologise. But I'm going to go now and get this car cleaned up and ready for the weekend, as I've got a car show to do and probably a couple of demos to do in the Golf. So for me and Alan down there, see you later.